the revenue formula debate has been on for a while now. Well, yes, a lot was said by the governor of Niger State. As a matter of fact, we do have him on tape this morning, and so we'll take that and we'll take it from there.
May be seen as less concentration of power and responsibility at the center, and more devolution of autonomy and sense of responsibility at the state and local government levels where the people actually live. Where are the people? They live in the villages, they live in the local government, they live in the state. So therefore, those who are the units that should be properly funded so that they take care of the people, rather than the federal government taking 52.8% of the revenue of the country, and the state and the local government taking 47.2%. I am not against the principle of derivation, but where again in correcting a situation you create more problems, then we will run into a bigger problems. There is in the Constitution today a derivation of 13%. So I'm happy because it didn't say only on oil. Derivation of 13% could be on cocoa, could be on yam. If I could import yam, export yam. So I'm happy with that. But where certain things that should be for the nation and it's now been appropriated to some few individuals, I have a quarrel with that. And where we have created some states in paradise and some states in purgatory, I think we should all pray that those in purgatory should also move to paradise.
Well, there you have it, Babangida Aliyu, Governor of Niger State, on that revenue sharing debate, which just seems to be going on, and perhaps it will be for some time to come. Well, Dr. Isowadogo joins us now. He's a political scientist. Thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, that statement of his actually generated a lot of response. Both those who read between the lines or otherwise are responding to it differently because perhaps they say it comes to them and they interpret it differently. What's your thought about his comment?
First and foremost, I think the governor is speaking the minds of many people, including those from the Niger Delta. So many people have misinterpreted his comments. At no point did he say that the principles of derivation should be abolished. At no point did he say that those from the Niger Delta should not get what is due to them. He has categorically stated that what the federal government keeps is not equitable. If you go to the villages, it is practically impossible for the federal government's presence to be felt in the remote areas of those villages. In fact, hardly will any federal government official even visit some of those places at the federal ministries. Do you see it? So it is the local governments that know exactly what exists. In my local government, for example, we have some villages that it is very difficult to reach. The terrain is something that you will find it impossible to say that somebody from Abuja will go there and you will take him to the place and he will ever want to go there again. So what he is saying is that, look, a few things have to be put in order. One, that there was a Supreme Court judgment which said that, look, any oil derived 200 nautical miles should not be for the littoral states. There was also a constitutional amendment, I think, which the National Assembly overruled the president then, that is Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. He refused to sign it, they overruled and they passed it into law. Why shouldn't that be put into law? Why shouldn't that be said? Is it practically possible and sensible and reasonable and rational to say that oil that is derived over 200 nautical miles in the ocean belongs to any particular state? But that is not just the case. If you look at the revenue sharing formula, I'm not talking of northern governors or northern states per se, no. I'm talking of all the other states of the federation that do not benefit. If they share 400 billion, 4 states get almost 1/4 of that 400 billion. Lagos, for example, contributes almost 75% to the growth of the Nigerian economy. Anybody that overlooks the issue of Lagos is not being fair. I'm not from Lagos, but I've stayed in Lagos for almost 30 years. I can claim Lagos as my state. I'll be foolish to start thinking of somewhere else and leave Lagos out. But I'm saying all the other states, whether from the east, whether from the west, whether from the north, have a right to get more revenue to develop these states. And I don't think the federal government should keep 52%. I do not believe that the federal government should have anything more than 25%, because the functions of the federal government, as you have seen, almost 70-something% goes into administration. Okay. If 70-something% goes into administration, it even is an abuse on the principles of taxation. Okay. That if you spend more in collecting taxes than what you collect, then you shouldn't even be doing so.
Yeah, but now that you say federal government, have no business keeping the kind of portion that they do have now, what about what he said, which some people interpret, saying, how come you're saying some states have more than all the other states? It looks as though you're targeting those states as opposed to the federal government.
Yes, I think he has a point there. Take, for example, the South states, isn't it? In addition to the 13% derivation, let me give you a typical example. Rivers, Bayelsa, Delta, and Akwa Ibom get almost 1/4 of the monthly allocation. They get between 12 and 15 billion. Are you getting me? Each of the states.
That is not the derivation.
Whatever it is part of the derivation that makes the Delta to get 15 billion when Lagos is getting 6 billion.
Can we separate the...
No, you can't separate it, because if it is not there, then they wouldn't be getting 15 and Lagos will get 6. When Lagos is about the most populous, Lagos and Kano are about the most populous states in the country. No, but so how do you say you separate them?
Let's separate derivation.
Separate them, let's see. From the 15, no. Want you to separate them from the 15 billion which Delta or Rivers or Bayelsa or Akwa Ibom gets from what Lagos gets, 6 billion. Separate it. Do the mathematics.
What he's saying, what my colleague is saying here, is that if we were to remove the 13% derivation from what those oil-producing states get, the amount most likely will be around the range of what Lagos gets, if not less.
But exactly, that is what we are saying.
But because of the derivation,
because of the derivation,
yes,
and because there's inequity in the derivation, because oil obtained 200 nautical miles off the shores of Nigeria is still appropriated to the issue of derivation, that is where the inequity lies. Secondly, there is NDDC. Thirdly, there is Ministry of Niger Delta. Haba, let's be honest. Tell me where equity, justice, and fair play lies.
This is all in
addition to that, the federal ministries are also supposed to have their presence. In addition to that, the oil companies still make contributions. So 5 different sources of revenue.
This is all in the face. This is all in the face of resource control. Because in some ways, this is an argument, this is some arrangement to try to pacify this region that has said, we want to control our resource. All of this is ours. As it is, we sustain this entity called Nigeria. It is from whatever it is you get in this region that has been neglected over the years. This entity called Nigeria is sustained.
I think that's a misconception of the issue of sustenance of this entity called Nigeria. Let me even.
So you do not agree?
No, I do not agree with that concept of saying that. Look, this entity. Are you telling me that oil derived 200 nautical miles belongs to Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, or Niger? Are you telling me that Lagos, which almost every part of the country survives? In fact, I can advise Fashola, for example, every ship that comes to this port, maybe, and every other activities that take place in the port, which is within Lagos, you should apply some of those principles. And in fact, maybe every revenue that is derived from the activities of imports and exports in Nigeria, 90% should come to Lagos State. I will support him. If you are talking of the issue of derivation. And let me explain to you. there is no country that acts exactly what Nigeria does. And let me also explain to you, you can see the steps that have been taken have not actually resolved the problems. And why I'm saying this, I've traversed the length and breadth of the Niger Delta, and you can't see where the development lies. Hardly do you actually notice it. But let me explain. Assuming there is a principle that comes up to say that, look, the oil companies must fix every single thing that exists in the Niger Delta, I am sure you will see visible development in virtually every area: water, electricity, health, education, everything. It will be there.
Okay,
the money that is taken by all these areas, where does it go to? Have you ever asked yourself that question?
So are you predicating that statement that if the monies they've gotten have not been used or sufficiently used for development purpose, on the basis of that, the North should get more, or the principle?
No. If the money being given through these channels,
the derivation,
yes, is not being used for the sake of the people, then they should devise other means of doing so.
Yes, sir.
I repeat, I am not against derivation. I am not against saying that, look, those people should be adequately taken care of. I am against the method, the means, the modus operandi, the ways it is being done. Because what is happening, you will observe that whatever goes there goes into the pockets of a few of the leaders, and nothing is actually reaching them. Otherwise, you wouldn't see the mass poverty that exists there. Look, to be honest, there is more poverty in the Niger Delta than it exists in Borno, where you have the Boko Haram, if you don't know. And you will discover that the young people in the Niger Delta today don't think much about developing themselves in all areas of life. They just think that there is oil money which somehow they will share.
But isn't that also the mentality of many of our governors? Because, I mean, this argument, some would say that it's predicated on the fact that there is some free money that comes to the government coffers every month or every year. Not because some states are, getting resources from their states and bringing to the general coffers.
You are very right. I was going to come to that. And I'll start by accusing the Federal Ministry of Mines and Power, or Federal Minister of Solid Minerals, let me put it that way, isn't it? And Minister of Mines and Power, whatever it is. Look, if you have a Minister of Solid Minerals, it is believed that you have a lot of gold, diamond, gemstones. In Kaduna State, for example, in a particular local government, if you go there, you will see what happens. You wouldn't believe it. Same thing in Plateau. Do you see it? But the ministry does nothing. Are you getting what I'm saying? Again, let me explain to you. If the desert countries all have oil, and Chad here has oil, I'll be very, very surprised to say that states like Borno, Yobe, Katsina, Sokoto, and even Kano that have boundary with desert and some parts are desert do not have oil. Now you ask this question: what has the federal government practically and consciously done to explore that? If they do that, then the problem will be half solved.
Shouldn't it be what they should be championing now?
No. What they are championing is correct, because there is a Supreme Court judgment and there is a law that oil 200 nautical miles should not be part of the derivation.
Is it about oil? Is it about oil or looking for other revenue sources?
It is all.
It's all encompassing.
Exactly. Because that is what I'm saying.
The United States governor said something. He said that 13. He's not talking about 13%. The derivation. He's not talking about
revenue
13%
formula
as regards oil only. He said 13% can be used for yam, can be used for vegetable, can be used for agricultural products. Why can't the
as long as they can export? You have to add that.
As long as they can export. Why can't the states begin to look within to find something that they can draw 13% from?
But you see what he is
why
saying.
Are we clamoring for the 200 nautical miles?
No, I think.
Why can't we look within first of all?
I think your perception is not right. If you can't say that the Supreme Court was wrong in passing that judgment, you cannot also say that the National Assembly was wrong in passing that into law. Do you see it? You can't say that. And you cannot, even in international law, I'm sure you know that there is a limit to which you can claim international waters.
But are we now,
are
you now saying that that law is not being followed?
No, it is not. It is not.
But if you look at his statement here, what he was talking about, the revenue sharing formula, revenue allocation formula, let me withdraw sharing. He says, continuing his statements, this is happening against the backdrop of what he called the grave situation in the north, where illiteracy, poverty, ignorance, and general backwardness are on the rise in the face of unfavorable federation account structure, which in the northern states, he says, puts them at great advantage. But you have those disadvantage. I beg your pardon. You have those who have just criticized this statement, saying, in the first instance, how could you predicate that on this? I mean, at the time where there was 50% derivation, they use their resources to do whatever they want, and nobody questioned it.
No.
And they ask, so why is it now?
I think you are making a mistake as to some of the issues that exist here. Look, you have to understand that. Yes, he's governor, he's the chairman of the 19 northern states. But what he is saying applies to the west, applies to the east, applies to every aspect, every part of
but he was talking about the north here.
Yes, he's right to talk of the north, because that is the truth. And I'm talking here as a Nigerian, you see. And I can tell you categorically that Nigerian leaders, most of them are simply local champions. Local champions in the sense that they do not look at things logically and nationally. When it favors them, you see it, they simply talk of their own places. Do you see it? And they want it for themselves. It is not like that.
But have you seen a consistency in the call or requests by leaders in this country over the years? Because if at that time, where these resources were, they had 50% formula, and this time this comes up and people are misinterpreting all of these statements, do you see any consistency? Because are people actually looking towards how do we look inwards and develop ourselves, as opposed to having the impression or giving the impression, albeit perhaps erroneously, it's all about oil?
You see, that is why I was saying that, look, you have to look at things comprehensively. And that is why I mentioned the issue of the Ministry of Solid Minerals. Do you get it? And I said that, look, there are so many other avenues. It is not, you don't take just one aspect of it. I'm not taking one aspect. I'm not just looking at that 13% derivation. I'm looking at it in a comprehensive manner to say that, look, we can do A, B, C, D to improve the situation, including the very principles of sharing. That is, I want a situation whereby we can all bake a bigger cake and everybody should take a bigger share, and we should ensure that the center does not take the biggest share. If I may put it in a layman's language, that is what he's saying. I believe there is no justification for the federal government to have 52%. That is one. I also believe that there is need for more efforts to develop other minerals, not just oil. All these things are waste. I mean, they will come to pass. This is it. So you can look for other areas. So are you getting me? I also believe that internally you have to look at things in a more conscious way, and you look at how much was it at that material time, and then look at it. What are the principles involved? What is the ecological?
The bottom line will be the principles at the time, not how much it was.
No, that's what I'm saying. I've already mentioned that, isn't it? I've already mentioned that. The principles involved and all whatnot. And as time goes on, you have to look at things very, very sensibly. Let me tell you this.
Dr. Dogo, before you go on, you said that you do not believe that the federal government should get as much as it does. We know that this issue of resource control has been on for a while, and even state governors clamoring for more funds has also been on for a while. As a forum, the Nigeria Governors Forum have clamored for more funds. That was one of the reasons why they asked that fuel subsidy be removed at that point in time. When it came to the issue of minimum wage, a host of the states said they could not afford to pay on what they were getting, and they were asking for a rejigging of this particular formula. But as it is, if you were the president today, and you had to take maybe a tour of all the states to see what the monies that you've been giving out over the years have been done with, would you in all good conscience, or can you in all good conscience say, oh, this state deserves more money, or they have spent this in a very, very equitable and accountable way, and as such they deserve more? Can we in all good conscience say that?
I've not gone to all the states. Are you getting me? But I believe there are a few states that I can say that, look, I will say so. For example, I can say Lagos has done so. One, I'm not the president, and two, I've not gone around the states to see what has taken place, and so it will be a subjective statement to just say, look, whether they have used the resources well or not. But I said I wanted to just comment on the 2 states or 3 states that I have visited regularly, and I've seen what happened to a very large degree. Like Lagos, that I live, I believe that the governor of Lagos State is doing exceptionally well. In fact, more than well, given the resources and the challenges that he faces. And I categorically stated, and a number of times too, that Lagos should be given a special status. In fact, it should be on a higher status than any aspect of derivation you can think of. And this federal government should have its presence here. Well, if I talk about my state, Kaduna State, I know what the governor gets, and I know the population of Kaduna State is 4 times that of Bayelsa. Yet Kaduna gets just about 3 billion. So tell me, it is not even enough to pay salaries. Yet he is trying to do whatever he can do. In that respect, I can say, look, my governor or my state, they are doing what I believe they are doing, and I can say, look, you need more. I can also talk of Cross River, for example, because I visited the place and I've seen exactly what they do, and I can say so. But I cannot say the same thing, and maybe to some extent to Rivers. You know, I visited Rivers and I saw what they are doing, particularly in terms of schools and other things. I'm talking of those that I've visited. But that is not the case. You should look at the issue of the local governments. We are talking of how money will reach the very grassroots.
Because that's my point exactly. We have been to some local governments. I mean, it's been said in the past, and it's still very much the practice in a host of local governments, that some of them don't only exist in name. They only exist on paper, and that when the allocation comes monthly, it is shared, and that's
when it comes to the
there is absolutely no business going on in the local government secretariat.
I think that shouldn't be the case. You should say, look, the case? More money. You should say, look, there should be a system whereby there should be, I mean, it should be ensured that whatever money goes to any level of governance.
Dr. Dogo, you're avoiding a question.
Yes.
Is that the case presently? Is that the case where local government secretariats are non-functional?
No. That, if you generalize like that, is not correct. Because you can't say that all the local governments are non-functional. That cannot be correct.
Have you visited any?
I mean, look, I cannot generalize to say that no local government. If you say that some, I agree.
But there's a bill.
But if you say that all of them, all the 774 local governments, none does anything, I don't think it's fair.
But
you can also say that, look, there's room for improvement. It is also possible. Look, most of the local governments, I was going to come to that. I was going to say that, look, the National Assembly should come up with a law, which they are doing, I believe.
It's already
that
works,
it is there. Do you see it? That, look, no state should collect the money that is given to the local government. Not one kobo should be out of it. And if there is a system, what does not exist in Nigeria is a system from the federal to the local government level. And that is what we are saying. If there is a system, we want to devolve a system where money must be used for the people.
Speaking about systems, I mean, don't you think that all of these, some of our leaders who are talking about the allocation formula and all, are they not focusing on the wrong things? Because we haven't heard anyone talk about what should we be doing about diversifying the economy? What if this oil dries up tomorrow? What are we going to be talking about?
That is exactly what I said at the beginning, that it's a comprehensive thing. It shouldn't just be the issue of how the oil something, but it should be a comprehensive thing, and it should include every aspect of the economy. And that is what I want to see. That is why I said it shouldn't be an issue of northern governors. The same applies to the east and the west. Are you getting me? And even the south, that we look at and we believe that, look, there's resource control. What is resource control? If 2 or 3 or a few people take away 99.999% record and they leave 0.00001 to the masses, and they keep on believing that, look, maybe federal government or some people there are not doing what they're supposed to do. So we are saying, look, these resources, we should find ways of producing more. That's why I use the issue of the cake. We should find more ways of producing more at all levels and in all parts of the country. That is why I mentioned that, look, you can actually get mineral resources in every part, including oil in the northern desert areas, since Saudi Arabia and others have oil.
But is this not to the detriment of the most important resource that we should develop? Because we all assume that this has to do with some kind of resource. What about human resource, which is the most important kind of resource ever? Are we developing our human resources?
Of course. If you look at Japan does not have mineral resources the way, but why are they among the most developed nations? So you are absolutely correct. In fact, the greatest resource any government can develop is the resource, the human resource, which we don't. And I agree with you perfectly that, look, if most of what we have today is put into education, education is adequately funded, and the right things are done, and we reduce the illiteracy level, let's say, to just about 5%, Nigeria will be a different story in a few years. That is the truth. You see. And many people look at education that it is expensive. They used to say that if you say education or training or whatever it is expensive, then try illiteracy. An educated person on the average will not go into armed robbery or lives carelessly and all whatnot. So a lot of other things will be solved.
The current formula, as we round up, the current formula came into operation in 2004 and says states have 52%.
No, it's federal government.
Federal government 52%, states 26.7%, and local governments 20.6%. But that of the state and local governments, most often than not, is paid into a joint account. I mean, if you were right now to advise the federal government, and in those are the National Assembly, on how to arrange this now, what would you advise them to do?
One, there should be no joint accounts between the local and the state governments, because in most cases the state governments take away the money. That's the point I was trying to make to Mope, that look, the local governments don't function at times because the state governments commandeer everything or most of it and give them only what they will use in paying salaries, which is wrong. So that should not be there. It shouldn't even be attempted. Everything that is meant for the local government should go directly to the local government, and it must be ensured that no state uses any other means, like some use, oh look, we are buying police vehicles, we are buying this, and the local government should contribute. That is left for the local government to decide. I also believe that the federal government should at least reduce the control. In fact, if the center is not so attractive, you wouldn't have people dying to be there.
All right, then,
if people are there just to serve, it will not be the same thing. If people at the state are there just to serve, it will not be the same thing. And the local governments, if there is a good system, the local governments deserve much